they're embracing us as opposed to chasing after us and prosecuting us. And now we're getting legislation. And so, it's a huge tailwind for the industry, not just for Galaxy, but the whole industry. And we plan on taking advantage of it.
That was Mike Novogratz of Galaxy cheering the changing regulatory regime for the crypto industry, which could see even more changes as soon as today. Stablecoin legislation is expected to clear the Senate this week. Stablecoins underpin most of the $3.3 trillion market for Bitcoin. The so-called Genius Act would require stablecoins to hold reserves of liquid, safe assets like treasury bills. Issuers would also have to follow anti-money laundering and terrorism finance rules and to give holders of coins priority to recoup their money in the event of a bankruptcy. Joining us to break down what this means for the broader crypto space, we have Kavita Gupta, Delta Blockchain Fund founder and general partner, and still with me is Amy Wu Silverman of RBC. Kavita, great to have you on this morning. Talk to me about this stablecoin legislation and what it signals specifically for crypto investors.
Thank you, guys. I think it's a very first good start move with this administration, especially because it's a bipartisan deal where we are saying, hey, let's legalize having stable coins, but let's put very strong and very good, positive and very structured rules around it that, hey, if you want to issue stable coins, you have to hold treasury bills. You have to have some sort of a collateral to support that you're not going to disappear. Also, at the same time, there is certain sort of transparency and accountability around it, which people can check what sort of a percentage of treasury bonds do you have. We have seen that trend, which has been questioned by SEC 2 years, 3 years back, by Tether and Circle and different treasury bills circulations. And I think the accounting has always been a question, what is acceptable or not acceptable. So finally having a very positive, structured rules and regulations around around stablecoin I think is a very big path forward and is a big crypto win.
Yeah, and I wonder from your perspective, too, about the dissolution of some of the headwinds to the bill. The two main ones that I've heard come up are big tech companies issuing their own stable coins, which seems to have been a headwind that has resolved itself. But then the other concern is the president profiting from crypto specifically. How are you thinking about that as a risk to the legitimacy of crypto going forward?
I think when we think of stablecoin, it is not a crypto which anybody or any token like Solana or like any of the 2,000, 10,000 tokens which we have, any private company can just go issue and create a value associated with it. We have to put stablecoin in a different basket. Stablecoin are US or European or Indian, like whatever currency you take, it is a government issues currency backed and it is pegged to it 1:1. So I think it is very different than the two issues which you highlighted. The first issue which you highlighted is very clean, that can private companies like Meta or Square or any other tech finance company can issue their own coins? Yes, they can. They can do the stable coins with the right regulations, but that is also very similar to digital payment system, which we are already using. When I do Venmo, I'm using digital payment system. Can they do their own crypto? That is not in the stablecoin basket. The other question which you asked about President Trump's benefiting from it, I think if it's a stablecoin payment system, it's a fair game. Anybody and everybody can do that. But if it is about launching your own crypto, again, that's a different basket. And if it's a conflict of interest where the president, knowing everything, what regulations are coming, is participating in a financial deal, then yes, it is a very clear conflict of interest.
Yeah, and just zooming out beyond stablecoins, just to crypto in general, Kavita, can you talk to me about how that potential conflict of interest reads into consumer sentiment, investor sentiment around crypto? And I guess, is that a potential headwind in your view to a wider adoption of cryptocurrencies?
It is a big question. I mean, on one side, I want to look at it positively, saying that we are seeing the biggest, like the first president of United States, who is very positive about blockchain and crypto, is actually having his extended family participating in creating a lot of products around it and having commercial, financial interest into it. So is that a positive long-term vision around it? Yes. But at the same time, if it stays within the extended family without having any conflict of interest from the government position, that is much better. Because when we start seeing this as a tool of short-term benefiting by people in power, which could be anybody around the world, then of course the investors start thinking that this is also going to come down heavily by the opposition,
Right.
who may be in power in the future. And that is not a sentiment that does create volatility in the market, which we are seeing, even though that the government is so pro-crypto, but the market is not showing that strength in trust for the investable dollar amount.
As lawmakers work to try to understand what cryptocurrency even is, efforts to regulate it are already underway. Last week, in a bipartisan vote, the Senate passed the GENIUS Act. It creates this regulatory framework for stablecoins. Okay, what are stablecoins, you may ask? Stablecoins are a type of cryptocurrency that's value is pegged to an alternative asset like the US dollar or the price of gold. Earlier this week, I spoke to Chief Strategy Officer at the financial technology company Circle, Dante Disparte, and his organization supports the GENIUS Act. So let's start with what's probably an easy question for you, but something that I need explained to me, and I think a lot of Americans do too, which is, what is stablecoin?
Yeah.
What does it do?
Well, great. It's a great question, and I'm glad you're asking it. A stablecoin, what we offer at Circle is a stablecoin known as USDC. It is effectively a dollar uploaded onto the internet, which allows people to send, spend, save, and secure their money in an internet-connected way, which could be down to your mobile device, how you pay people internationally, and of course, lots of questions about the U.S. payment system very broadly. And so stablecoins or digital dollars is probably the simplest way to describe it, but not all of them are created equal, which is why we need U.S. laws to get passed.
Okay, and I want to get to that in a minute, but how does this differ from cryptocurrency or other kinds of currencies that we've heard, or is it the same?
Well, in some ways, stablecoins were born out of one of the original challenges we saw with cryptocurrencies, which was that a lot of cryptocurrencies were hyper volatile, or they subjected the end users to risk. Stablecoins, as the name suggests, were designed to be stable, and so in holding their price stable, for example, to the US dollar, they could be used as a medium of exchange, they could be used for payment systems, and they could be used more broadly in financial services. And so that's where the innovation has really born and come of age over the last 6 years.
So it is a form of cryptocurrency, but it is associated with the US dollar.
The vast majority of stablecoins in circulation today reference the US dollar. Probably 90% of them reference the US dollar, again, to varying degrees, but nonetheless, that's the core product. And stablecoins benefit from blockchain technology as the underlying ledger on which they're stored and sent. But at the end of the day, it's all about being able to send dollars outside of banking hours and to send dollars the way you and I might interact with WhatsApp or messaging platforms. It's about device-centric user control is what this allows you to do with your money.
So let's talk about the GENIUS Act, because this is Congress's attempt to regulate this sort of thing. And Congress has had a lot of trouble trying to regulate here. It seems like they're getting close to the finish line. What exactly would the GENIUS Act do? So
the GENIUS Act is a really, really important piece of legislation that has just come out of the Senate. It enjoyed deep bipartisan support. More than 18 Democrats supported it in the Senate. And what it would do is create a level playing field in the United States for dollar-denominated stablecoins. The GENIUS Act would create the legal category. It would call them payment stablecoins, and it would allow banks, non-banks, and effectively credit unions as well to compete, either at the state level or all the way up to having a federal charter. That's just the domestic piece of the puzzle. The GENIUS Act would also ensure that there's an America First framework for this really important innovation around the world, because the dollar is such a critical currency, not only in this category of activity, but also as a payment instrument, as a reserve currency around the world. So the GENIUS Act would give us a national framework that we could export to other countries.
So without this piece of legislation, what's the consequence of how it's all operating now?
Well, one of the things that I try to run the GENIUS Act through was what I call the Terra Luna test. Here in Washington, D.C., there was a so-called stablecoin that entered circulation into the United States. It even bought the naming rights for our baseball stadium here, and so its logo is still on the stadium. And over the course of a weekend, that product blew up, in effect because it would have failed the Jerry Maguire Show Me the Money test, and in effect was backed by nothing at all. And so that product caused a lot of losses. The Genius Act would prevent that type of product from entering circulation in the United States. It would create very clear boundaries on what can be called a stablecoin in the U.S. and what types of reserves have to back them, including criminal liability and criminal penalties for false advertising and misreporting and all of the rest. And then the last and most important piece is it would address national security issues by creating a level playing field to banks and other regulated companies with anti-money laundering, countering the financing of terrorism and other security issues that matter to the country.
So without this, I mean, it's kind of operating as the Wild West here.
Well, in some ways, it isn't, in that companies like ours have always abided by pre-existing rules in the United States of America, but it does put the U.S. entities at a disadvantage to offshore companies or to other countries who in many respects might have clearer rules for regulating U.S. dollars than we do here in the United States. All of Europe, for example, has a very broad set of rules for this entire market, including broader crypto asset activity, but the U.S. doesn't yet. And so we're the outlier country right now, and there's a very simple choice which the Genius Act gives us the chance to answer. We either lead or we are led. And on this matter, the president has recently issued a tweet calling for action and calling for the Genius Act to come out of the House on a clean basis and to get passed into law. And we have an opportunity to do that, even perhaps ahead of the 4th of July.
Why do you think this is an issue that unites some lawmakers who otherwise wouldn't work together on anything? I mean, Kirsten Gillibrand from New York is a co-sponsor of this effort.
Sure. Well, number one, I would argue there's a lot of equities here that matter. The United States, especially when it comes to fintech innovation, the states are the laboratories of responsible innovation. And so you could see a lot of interest at the state level to help companies compete in this novel market. So that's a bipartisan issue. You, of course, also see a lot of consumer protection issues that matter pretty heavily to the Democrats and to many others. The Republicans as well have been pushing for a principled set of rules here. And then the last, of course, is this category is an export product. And so if we want to, in fact, have a world in which the U.S. dollar has its defense and its externalities and the ability to export U.S. dollars all over the world, to be able to render a dollar on an internet-connected device is a powerful breakthrough innovation, but it has to be rules-based. And so there's no better model of protecting the role of the U.S. dollar in the 21st century than federal law. And so I think seeing how unified Congress is very encouraging because, we haven't necessarily had a lot of political unity in our country, but around this matter, there's a unity of purpose, which is rare.
Rare indeed.
This is CoinDesk. I'm Victor Chen. The U.S. Senate's newly passed Genius Act is being hailed as a major achievement by the crypto industry, which has never managed to get a significant piece of legislation approved by the Senate. But it has left a contingent of the Democratic Party furious, not over what the bill does, but what it doesn't do. One of the chief points of contention from the opposition was that President Donald Trump is fully engaged in crypto, with his family profiting hugely from several different business efforts, including their meme coins, NFTs, and yes, their own stablecoins from the Trump-related project, World Liberty Financial. The president is profiting from crypto, and that money is coming from sources. Some of them are foreign and cannot be readily identified. The Democrats have labeled this as open corruption, and it came to a head when the president hosted a private dinner for his top meme coin investors without making public who was attending. Democrats, including Senators Elizabeth Warren and Chris Murphy, demanded a ban on senior government officials pocketing crypto gains, including the president and members of Congress. But other Democrats ultimately shrugged off the request by insisting that corruption is already illegal and doesn't need to be dealt with directly in this bill. In the end, 18 Democrats voted in favor of the Genius Act, giving it a massive bipartisan jolt. So what does it matter, though, since the opposing Democrats have already been defeated in this round? Well, there's a good chance that Genius or something similar has to come back around again in the Senate before final approval. But possibly more importantly, the Senate must also approve the more vital crypto market structure bill that will regulate the wider digital assets market in the US. That one is going to be the game changer, and the industry is going to need a lot of Democrats to stay on its side in order to make it happen.
Next to the U.S., where the Senate recently passed the Genius Act, a bill establishing regulatory frameworks for the stablecoin, a cryptocurrency that will hold the same value as the U.S. dollar. For the digital assets industry, the move is a historic milestone. But UC Berkeley professor in economics and politics, Barry Eichengreen, warns that it could bring economic chaos. And he joins Walter Isaacson to explain why.
Thank you, Bianna and Professor Barry Eichengreen. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Walter.
the Senate just recently passed something called the Genius Act. It was a bipartisan bill passed overwhelmingly, and it would create something called stablecoins, which are a cryptocurrency or digital currency. Could you explain first what a stablecoin really is?
A stablecoin is a cryptocurrency, but it's a special kind of crypto. The company that issues it might be a bank, might be a tech company, might be a crypto exchange, promises to keep it pegged 1-to-1 to the US dollar.
So it doesn't float like Bitcoin does. You don't have to worry about it going up and down.
Right. It's supposed to hold its value, and the issuer buys and sells it with the intention of keeping that value stable.
And so companies like Walmart and others could issue stable coins in order to have financial transactions that don't have to go through credit cards. Is that right?
That's right. So you could use Walmart coin at Walmart, but conceivably with other retailers and your neighbor down the street. World Liberty Financial, the Trump family crypto company, has a stable coin planned, I think, underway. So there could be hundreds or even thousands of these in principle.
How are they different from something like Tether that already exists?
Well, they would be exactly like Tether, except they would be regulated by our federal government, by the Fed, by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, by the comptroller of the currency. So they would be given legitimacy, if you will, by the federal government. They would need a license in order to operate.
And so that would make them more regulated, make it more safe than the sort of free things we have now. Why is that not a good thing?
Well, number one, we don't know how safe. So the principle is that a company issuing a stable coin would hold $1 worth of reserves in liquid, reliable form for every dollar stablecoin token that it issued. But
by that you mean like treasury bills or something?
Treasury bills or something like that. But that's basically what money market funds do as well. And if you think back to the global financial crisis to 2008, you'll remember that an important money market fund broke the buck. Its dollar share went down to 97 cents because the bonds it held turned out to be worth less than promised. And you have to think that regulators are going to be really smart and on the ball to believe that this can't also happen with stablecoins.
Your New York Times op-ed said it could cause economic chaos. Explain why you say that, what that chaos would be.
Well, number one, we would have different dollar coins circulating side by side, conceivably all worth different numbers of dollars, different amounts. Some coins would be worth 97 cents. Others would be worth 98 cents. So every single...
Wait, I thought they were supposed to be actually pegged to the dollar.
They are supposed to be, but whether that will be the reality or not is a real question. Think back to that money market fund analogy that I gave you before. So Walter's coin and Barry's coin could circulate at different values, and you would have to pull out the equivalent of a phone book and check each and every coin, each and every issuer, the value of the backing behind each and every coin to know how much to value it at. Economists talk about the singleness of money, that every dollar bill is worth exactly $1. That would be at risk under this stablecoin regime.
But wouldn't it be possible to create a stable coin that actually was pegged to the dollar?
It is possible in principle. The question is, will it be true in practice? So we have decades, centuries of experience with financial regulation. We have to believe that the regulators will be on the ball. They will ensure that every single stablecoin issuer is really holding bank deposits or treasury bills worth $1 for every dollar stablecoin they issue. This has not been true in the past. Tether's value has fluctuated in response to events in the past. We have to believe that regulators will really know what they're doing. They certainly haven't prevented banks from failing in the past, even though that's their charge.
Well, wait, if they haven't prevented banks or money market funds occasionally from failing, and we have Silicon Valley Bank, a lot of things, why is this any different? And this is a pretty good system, but not pitch perfect.
Well, in the case of banks, we have federal deposit insurance, and the premia for that are paid by the banks. The banks pay into a fund, and that fund is then used to make depositors whole in the event that a bank like Silicon Valley Bank in 2023 fails. There's nothing like that in the GENIUS Act. So people who hold and use stablecoins are going to be more nervous about their value than bank depositors. They're going to run at the first sign of trouble, and that can cause another form of chaos as the run spills over contagiously from one stablecoin to another. And there's going to be pressure on the government to bail out stablecoin holders if something goes wrong, just like there was pressure to bail out the big uninsured depositors of Silicon Valley Bank and to bail out the money market funds in 2008. There being no insurance fund, the costs there are going to fall on you and me, on the taxpayer.
The Senate just passed an incredible bill that is going to make America the undisputed leader in digital assets. Nobody will do it better. It is pure genius. With these words, President Donald Trump stunned onlookers by publicly hailing a groundbreaking piece of legislation that has the potential to reshape the global financial landscape. What exactly is hidden behind the curtain of this so-called Genius Act, and how did it catapult one company's shares into the stratosphere almost overnight? Today, we are going to dig into the riveting world of stablecoins, explore why Circle's fortune soared, and see how the House of Representatives is responding to the urgency of Trump's demands. But first, let us outline the questions we are determined to answer in this enthralling story. Why is Circle at the forefront of this financial revolution, and what makes their USDC token so uniquely positioned for success? How does the newly passed legislation, championed by the Senate, aim to thrust America into a new digital age of currency? And are we about to witness a showdown between the House and the President over exactly how stablecoins should be regulated? Sit tight and prepare for a journey that will weave together corporate ambitions, political maneuvering, and the potential transformation of the large-scale financial system we all rely on. For everyone following today, get ready to hear about a cavalcade of major banks, from JP Chase to Deutsche Bank, that are scrambling to join the stablecoin mania. And we will also examine a host of tech titans and e-commerce giants, all eager to harness fast, cheap transactions for global customers. This is not just about Circle or the rumored stablecoin from the Trump family's own decentralized finance project. This is about what the future of money could look like, and who stands to profit or fall when the dust finally settles. Before we jump into the twists and turns, let us set the stage. On a scorching day in mid-June, when tempers in the Capitol were running high, the Senate took the bold step of passing what has been labeled the Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins Act. Supporters hailed this legislation as a blueprint for propelling the United States into a new era of financial supremacy in the global stablecoin market. Critics, meanwhile, cautioned that the measure might unleash enormous disruptions to the banking system, especially when so many banks are lining up to launch their own dollar-backed tokens. According to the text of this legislation, the fundamental goal is to impose transparency on stablecoin issuers and to ensure that reserve assets are properly managed. But hidden in the details is another powerful incentive. Any stablecoin that achieves certification will likely gain mainstream acceptance, comparable to that of traditional banking instruments. That has given Circle a massive tailwind. Circle is widely recognized as the issuer of USDC, which has hovered around a significant share of the stablecoin market. Although it slipped from its all-time high not too long ago, USDC remains a heavyweight, vying with Tether for leadership in dollar-pegged tokens. Right after the Senate signaled its approval for the Genius Act, Circle's stock soared by roughly one-third, surging from somewhere near $199 to over $212 in after-hours trading. Investors were quick to spot that Circle stood in the perfect position to benefit from an official government nod, even though the House has yet to finalize its own stablecoin proposals. In a single day, the buzz around Circle delivered a jolt of excitement to the entire crypto and fintech sector. Perhaps the most unexpected part of this story, however, was the level of support from President Trump, who wasted no time urging the House to pass a clean version of the act without any additions or delays. The House will hopefully move lightning fast, Trump declared in all caps on his social media platform, calling for the bill to land on his desk as soon as possible. He proceeded to refer to the legislation as pure genius and insisted that stablecoins would unleash massive innovation. That is quite a leap from a leader whose stance on digital currencies has sometimes seemed hesitant. But that is the new reality in Washington. Stablecoins have seized the spotlight as either the next wave of American brilliance or the biggest bubble yet to come. Now, you might be wondering why all of this matters to you or to everyday consumers around the globe. The key is speed and efficiency. If stablecoin transactions become seamlessly integrated into e-commerce platforms, social media apps, and banking services, everyday payments could be completed in a blink. No more wire transfer delays, no more pricey intermediaries, and minimal friction when sending money across borders. That is precisely why companies such as Shopify and Coinbase are marching into the stablecoin ecosystem. Shopify, for instance, recently rolled out a feature allowing merchants to accept USDC payments via Base, a Layer 2 network built on Ethereum. This ongoing race to streamline commerce is not just a gimmick. Many see it as the future of money moving across the entire internet. At the same time, Circle is scoring deals left and right. Their handshakes extend to Brazil, where local fintech NESARA aims to integrate new forms of USDC-based settlements. Meanwhile, the concept of stablecoin collateralized futures is inching closer to reality, with Coinbase Derivatives and Nodal Clear seeking Commodity Futures Trading Commission approval to use USDC as eligible collateral for trades. Suddenly, an asset once viewed with suspicion by some regulators is entering the realm of mainstream finance. If you are enjoying this deep dive, feel free to show some love and give us a like. Your support helps us keep unearthing the complexities of digital innovation. But where does Trump's push come in? To understand that, we need to rewind to a few months ago. In March, the president signed an executive order stating that nearly all federal payments in the future would be conducted through electronic funds transfer methods rather than paper checks. On the surface, that might seem simply a modernization measure. Who wants to fiddle with snail mail checks in a digital era? Yet behind the curtain, the question arises whether the White House might be planning to roll out a federal stablecoin, perhaps the rumored USD1 token from the Trump family's own foray into decentralized finance via World Liberty Financial. If that scenario were to materialize, it would upend the stablecoin ecosystem in ways that are hard to predict, but certain to command headlines. One cannot discuss stablecoins without mentioning Tether. Tether's market cap sits at well over $150 billion. Despite questions from skeptics about Tether's backing, it remains the dominant stablecoin in terms of total circulation. Meanwhile, USDC's market cap is in the neighborhood of $60 billion, though it has fluctuated quite a bit, occasionally edging closer to $61 billion or dropping nearer to 60. Many analysts interpret these shifting market caps as a sign that the stablecoin market is hungry for clarity, precisely what the GENIUS Act promises to provide. If regulators create a consistent environment where major institutional players feel safe dipping their toes in, the potential for exponential growth becomes enormous. Of course, the United States is not the only region where stablecoin developments are in motion. Hong Kong has introduced its own stablecoin legislature, attracting the likes of Ant Group's subsidiary and the Chinese e-commerce giant JD.com. Each of these corporate behemoths recognizes that stablecoins could slash cross-border transaction fees by dramatic percentages and enable near-instant settlement. For companies that operate across continents, shaving even a fraction of a percent off their transaction costs can translate to jaw-dropping sums over time. And it is not just e-commerce. Banking heavyweights are also scrambling to get a piece of this new frontier. JP Morgan Chase recently unveiled plans for a so-called permission deposit token named JPMD on the Base network. This deposit token theoretically offers many of the perks of a stablecoin: swift settlement, blockchain transparency, easy integration, yet remains tied closely to the traditional banking world. The idea is that customers would trust a well-regulated banking institution far more than a random unknown crypto startup. Whether that trust is justified is a matter of debate, but the mere presence of such interest from JP Morgan shows that stablecoins have arrived in the mainstream. Likewise, Deutsche Bank has indicated that it is exploring its own stablecoin issuance, presumably to future-proof itself in an evolving global currency environment. While banks tackle these innovations, corporations are not far behind. You might have noticed that Elon Musk's X platform has teased an all-in-one payment solution called X Money. Although Musk has not officially labeled it a stablecoin project, the rumor mill suggests that stablecoin technology might underpin the platform's future. And let us not forget about Meta. After the demise of its Libra and Diem initiatives, it seems poised to try again, prompting certain politicians to pen letters warning Mark Zuckerberg not to reawaken old controversies. When an enormous social media network with billions of users toys with the idea of launching a native currency, an immediate fear emerges that it could crowd out smaller competitors and tilt the economic balance in unknown ways. So, the question stands. Why exactly is the federal government in such a rush to pass stablecoin regulations? And why is President Trump so eager to push them through? One line of reasoning points to the global currency race. Several countries have grown wary of the US dollar's dominant role in global trade, leading them to initiate de-dollarization efforts. In that environment, stablecoins pegged to the US dollar may actually reinforce the greenback status. If trillions of dollars worth of stablecoins circulate globally, the demand for U.S. Treasury bills could balloon, since stablecoin issuers must hold robust reserves to guarantee their tokens' peg. That demand might help finance America's growing deficits and cement the dollar's foothold in cross-border commerce. In the eyes of Secretary of the Treasury, Scott Bessent, stablecoins could become one of the largest buyers of T-bills in just a handful of years. Although estimates vary widely, with some experts pegging the potential stablecoin purchases at $500 billion within 7 years and others going as high as $2 or $3 trillion, the possibility of stablecoins fortifying demand for government debt is an intriguing one for Washington. As the United States grapples with questions about its credit rating and foreign holders trimming their treasury obligations, stablecoins might provide a safety valve. Still, the scenario is not without risk. Experts warn of the dreaded run-on-the-bank phenomenon, in which a sudden loss of faith in a major stablecoin prompts users to redeem en masse, potentially forcing issuers to dump treasuries in a liquidity crunch. If those issuers cannot liquidate quickly enough, they might fail to meet redemption requests, shattering confidence across financial markets and potentially causing havoc in the parallel world of decentralized finance. Some critics liken it to the vulnerabilities that triggered bank runs in earlier eras, only this time magnified by modern, hyper-connected technology. We should take a moment to highlight how quickly stablecoins are infiltrating different corners of society. Publicly traded companies might soon be issuing their own stablecoins, provided they pass muster with the Stablecoin Certification Review Committee established by the GENIUS Act. Privately held firms, such as Elon Musk's social networking empire, could bypass certain committees, leading them to roll out tokens at an even faster rate. Imagine a future in which half a dozen top corporations each have a stablecoin for their brand ecosystems, used by loyal customers and integrated with popular e-commerce or travel platforms. That world is not as distant as it may sound. One particularly captivating subplot to keep an eye on is how the House of Representatives will respond to President Trump's no-nonsense push. The House has been working on its own market structure legislation for digital assets, which might complicate the swift passage of the Senate's version of the GENIUS Act. Representatives could attempt to bundle stablecoin legislation with more contentious proposals around the overall digital asset marketplace. Although Trump insists that stablecoins need a clean bill, free of additional baggage, politics rarely runs so smoothly. Public opinion is equally split. Some are cheering because they believe stablecoins can democratize finance. Others see them as a Trojan horse for shady activities or unscrupulous profiteering. Then there are those who worry about the possibility of partisan wrangling overshadowing the actual policy details. Will representatives from both sides find enough common ground to produce a unified stablecoin framework that fosters innovation and protects consumers? Or will we get bogged down in months of negotiation? No discussion of stablecoins can ignore the March fiasco involving Circle and its reserves. When Silicon Valley Bank collapsed, Circle revealed that it kept over $3 billion of its liquidity in that failing institution. The crisis prompted a temporary de-pegging of USDC, sowing doubt in the hearts of many users. The panic subsided only after the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation stepped in. The experience underscored the stablecoin sector's dependence on healthy banking relationships. As stablecoins expand, the question of who insures their reserves, how they hold them, and how quickly they can convert to cash if trouble arises remains at the forefront of regulatory concerns. With so many different voices jockeying for influence, it is hard to predict the next twist. But John or Jane Q, public might feel a mixture of exhilaration and anxiety at the prospect that their future might hinge on the decisions made in Washington during these pivotal weeks and months. Are we on the cusp of a digital money revolution where stablecoins become as ubiquitous as debit cards? Or will these developments give rise to new forms of concentration and market manipulation? As we analyze this, it is worth remembering that behind all the political showmanship and corporate strategizing, there is a very real impetus driving stablecoin adoption: human convenience. No longer will individuals or businesses want to wait several working days for funds to clear, nor will they want to pay exorbitant rates for cross-border payments. Stablecoins cut down on fees and time, and that is exactly why big-name corporations, from Amazon to Airbnb, are rumored to be exploring stablecoin payment integrations. Watching the rollout of these features, one might see the impending transformation as unstoppable. The question is not if stablecoins become mainstream, but when. Yet, the more mainstream stablecoins become, the more potential there is for a meltdown scenario if even one major player falters. Confidence can be precarious in digital markets, and flash crashes often occur in the blink of an eye. So far, Circle's longtime rival Tether has weathered storms, but it continues to face scrutiny over whether it can comply with the Act's transparency demands. Tether's track record of revealing audit results remains murky to skeptics, so the new legislation might finally force them into greater disclosure. With President Trump calling for immediate action, we are left to wonder whether his own personal or family interests in stablecoin issuance play a part. The newly established currency called USD1, rumored to be tethered to the White House's future plans, might derive enormous benefits if it receives immediate federal endorsement. If that scenario plays out, we could see a strong reaction from rival stablecoin issuers or from lawmakers who see the potential for conflicts of interest. Could the White House be fueling the stablecoin frenzy to pave the path for its own token to dominate federal payments? We must also keep an eye on the real-world impact. Think of the ecosystem of vendors, small businesses, and local financial institutions that might adopt stablecoins as an alternative to traditional bank services. If stablecoins were to slash fees and speed up settlement times, small enterprises could thrive. Some speculate that the widespread integration of stablecoins might even chip away at the power of big banks to levy heavy transaction charges. Of course, the banks that move quickly enough to issue their own stablecoins, or deposit tokens, might preserve their influence by becoming the gatekeepers of these new digital channels. As the drama unfolds, it is not all smooth sailing for stablecoin pioneers. The obstacles ahead include potential friction with the House, unpredictable reactions from foreign markets, and the looming risk of a run if confidence wavers. Yet Circle's stock rally has signaled that many believe the door to major profits has just swung wide open. Those who recall the early technological leaps of the internet era can imagine a scenario where stablecoins form the foundation for a new wave of online services, each of them dependent on seamless micropayments, streaming money, and borderless financial instruments. If you are entertained so far and want to stay on top of the future of stablecoins, be sure to subscribe or follow our channel. We are just scratching the surface of what might be the biggest story in digital finance for the coming years, and you do not want to miss the next update as events continue to unfold. From the halls of Congress to the servers at corporate headquarters, the story of stablecoins is one that connects to our everyday lives more than many suspect. To bring our investigation full circle, no pun intended, we must return to the biggest question: how soon could we see a stablecoin law formally enacted? If the Senate's Genius Act stands on its own, it might gain the House's stamp of approval sooner rather than later, particularly if the president keeps the pressure on. Yet the House has its own agenda, including digital asset market structure bills that some want to package together with the stablecoin rules. The risk is that the momentum behind stablecoins could get lost in the wider shuffle of political wrangling. And here is where the intrigue really heats up. Trump's flamboyant call for a clean bill signals that he does not want stablecoin regulations watered down or postponed. But certain members of the House leadership might favor a more cautious approach, insisting that stablecoins are too large an issue to rush through without tackling broader concerns around digital assets, anti-money laundering measures, and investor protections. Time will tell how these cross-currents resolve themselves, and we will be watching every twist and turn, as the future of global finance could hinge on a few paragraphs of legislative text. Even if, by some stroke of fate, stablecoin regulations do not pass as quickly as President Trump wants, the fervor that has erupted around Circle and the entire sector shows no sign of subsiding. From cross-border payments to e-commerce integrations, stablecoins are on the verge of radically changing how we pay for goods and services. While huge banks like JP Morgan are forging deposit tokens, technology innovators like Coinbase and Shopify are bridging the gap between everyday users and blockchain-based transactions. Meanwhile, the risk of contagion lurks just beneath the surface, driving caution among even the most enthusiastic adopters. Yet caution often goes out the window when the allure of first-mover advantage beckons. Early adopters of stablecoins stand to capture entire swaths of new markets, from unbanked populations eager to transact digitally to multinational corporations seeking ways to cut settlement times. With Circle's success and Tether's dominance under the microscope, the stablecoin market may well see new challengers appear in force, each backed by major financial players. In the years, or perhaps months, to come, the competition could be fierce. Of particular note is how the rest of the world responds to the United States, should stablecoins indeed become enshrined by an act of Congress. Certain European banks are setting the stage for euro-based tokens to ensure that not all stablecoin traffic flows through the dollar pipeline. Asia, too, appears poised to adopt stablecoin regulations that encourage local versions of these tokens, potentially giving American issuers a run for their money in key economic corridors. Whether the United States truly cements its leadership in digital assets might hinge on how effectively the Trump administration and whichever administration follows can navigate international partnerships. Still, the fierce momentum on display right now cannot be overlooked. The day the Senate passed the Genius Act, Circle's share price popped so dramatically that many finance professionals started calling around, anxious about how quickly the stablecoin revolution was unfolding. As more corporations, Airbnb, Apple, Amazon, Walmart, and others, reportedly inch toward adopting dollar-backed tokens, we may reach a tipping point. Once stablecoin transactions become as routine as swiping a credit card, public perceptions of money itself could transform. How soon will that day come? Perhaps not instantly, but the wheels are in motion. Regulators are dashing to craft rules that will hopefully prevent catastrophic failures or unscrupulous maneuvers. American legislators are at the center of the action, juggling industry feedback, consumer protection, and national security concerns. The final shape of the law could decide whether stablecoins truly bring the promised benefits or introduce a new era of digital vulnerabilities. At the center of it all is Circle, enjoying its role as a poster child for stablecoin legitimacy. Their frantic schedule of new partnerships and expansions, from e-commerce solutions in Brazil to derivative collateral in the United States, exemplifies how stablecoins are quickly filtering into diverse corners of finance. With the president rallying behind them, at least for the moment, Circle's top executives see nothing but green lights ahead. Yet one misstep, such as repeated bank collapses or a severe market downturn, could shift sentiment in the blink of an eye. Whatever the next weeks bring, one thing is clear. Stablecoins are no longer a fringe concept. They have found their way into the halls of power, where presidents, senators, and mightily influential businesses are all racing to shape how the next generation of money works. Will the Genius Act be the holy grail that propels the United States to new heights, or will it crack open a Pandora's box of financial complications? Stay tuned, because as President Trump insists on speed, the rest of the world is watching and waiting, eager to see whether the stablecoin dream can become a sustainable reality.